What is good, everybody, man? We are live here back on the Bluebloods FCS Football Central. Myself, my guy, Coach Leroy Frederick, man, just got back in from a scrimmage. Man, Coach, we had a chance to talk to Coach Said, new offensive line coach, Coach Watson. Those will be uploaded later today, Coach. But I wanted to ask you before we got into these bold takes as we continue our bold takes series until the start of week 0 next week. Coach, how we feel today after the final scrimmage of fall camp?
Actually felt pretty good. Knowing that it was full speed to the tag off, the shave up. Got a chance to see some guys that really needed the reps to, make that second or that third guy in a rotation. So it was good to see that, man. The speed, pretty clean game. Had the officials out. So we got things we got to clean up, but the little things that you hope to not have at this point in camp, we kind of avoided those. So, the holdings, the offsides, false starts, did pretty good with that, kind of cleaned it up a little bit. So nowhere to go from here but up.
I like it. So just let people know, man. The last scrimmage of fall camp. So fall camp's kind of done because school starts next week. How does the schedule shift for y'all as y'all try to now balance classes and preparing for week 1 in 2 weeks?
So for us, we are a morning practice team. So we'll start, our practice course Monday. They have off. First day of school, get yourself together. We'll meet after lunch, position-wise, and we'll start to introduce UAB. So, Tuesday we hit the ground running with the scout cards from UAB, and that's the focus at that point. Not a whole lot of good on good at this point. Now it's just kind of maybe 10-minute period of good on good, and then that's it. Everything else is done from the scout side of things. So we're a morning practice team, evening meet team. So, that would be the only change for us, so to speak.
I like it. I like it. Now, real quick, obviously, man, we know Truck's the guy in the tight end room. But I know you're still kind of heavily involved with the wide receivers too. Have you developed who's next behind him at the tight end room, and then who's kind of stepped up at wide receiver for you guys, man? A lot of new faces probably coming into that room.
Caleb Anderson is the guy behind Truck. Transfer from Akron. He is from Mississippi originally. So we got Caleb. He's had a great camp. Done some really nice things. Receiver wise, a young kid I had last year, starting to really turn the corner now. Tyron and Damien, both of those kids are now starting to turn the corner. So, it's good to see them take some of the things that we had last year in the receiver room and build on that now with Coach AR. So, those two guys, Damien and Tyron, and of course Caleb Anderson in tight end room, and then everybody knows Truck. So that's pretty much the gist of it.
Well, man, let's get into these bold takes, man. We got some good ones today, Coach. I saved some good ones for the weekend, man. I think we got some good ones over the next 2 days. And man, Coach, we go all over the map, man. From the SoCon to the MEAC to the SWAC to the NDSU. We're all over the place. Let's start here. Our guy Chuck on Twitter or X now. Tennessee State wins the Big South OVC, and the Big South OVC also gets 2 teams into the playoffs. Coach, your thoughts on this one?
Oh man, winning the Big South is doable, no doubt about it. As we talked yesterday, they've got to find a way to finish from week 7 to the end of it, and if they win it, I could see them getting 2 teams. If they don't win it, I don't know how the conference gets another team in, unless other conferences have a so-so, year, so to speak, from top to bottom. But if they win it, I think they get 2 teams in.
Yeah, I mean, so for bold take wise, I think winning the Big South OVC, maybe a 5 or 6. I wouldn't be just like floored. I still think it's UT Martin's conference. UT Martin's loaded, man. Like, especially they probably, Coach, just looking at them, they arguably probably got the best or second best quarterback in the conference, maybe in Dent. They got, I would argue, the best wide receiving core in the conference. I mean, Coach, you
Pretty
remember
close,
Trevante,
if not,
yeah, I mean, you remember Trevante Rucker, who was good for Jackson. He's probably their 3rd best wide receiver in that room. He's pretty good. So, I mean, that shows you the depth they have there. They got experience on the offensive line. Secondary-wise, they probably got the best defensive player in the SoCon and O'Shea Baker. So, I really do think that UT Martin's there. So, Tennessee, when you look at Tennessee State, they got to get past Eastern Illinois, probably SEMO. Because we've talked about this, a midseason slump, man.
Yep.
Every year they seem to have a midseason just letdown or a letdown game like Lane. What was it, 2 years ago? Which
Yeah.
made no sense what was going on. But I do like
Fighting the
Traylon
football.
Ellis coming back, Jordan Gantz back at running back, wide receiving course experience. They just have a lot of question marks defensively right now, coach. And listen, I'm the biggest Brandon Fisher fan in the world. I think he can do it. But coach, they really returned 2 starters from last
Right.
year's unit.
Right.
Lots of new faces. So I think it's a 5 or 6 on the bowl take for Tennessee State winning the Big South OVC. Now for 2 teams, I think that's even a bolder take just because, coach, this conference is going to have to dominate out of conference games to have that happen. And when you look at the depth of the SoCon, coach, we talked 2 episodes ago about the SWAC and MEAC potentially having a team or 2 in that conversation too. Then you got the Big Sky and Valley who are always going to have teams on the bubble. Then, well, what happens with the CAA this year, coach? I mean, that could be a 3 to 5 bid league and you don't really know what's going on there. So I just think the bubble is going to be too tight for the Big South, obviously, to slide 2 teams in there. But I do think Tennessee State has a realistic shot to win it. I don't know if they'd be the favorite, but they can do it. Coach, quickly, man, our guy James Singleton from Red Shirt Sports, man, go make sure to check them out, man. They do great work over there. VMI places in the top half of the SoCon. So, Coach, that means they would have to finish top 4 in the SoCon year 2 of head coach Danny Rocco's tenure there. Coach, any chance the Keydets get it done?
Not from what I've heard. That would be, as you would say, I would be floored if they crept up and had a chance to win that thing with 3 weeks left to go in the season. I'd be very surprised. So the boldness of that one would be definitely 7-ish, 8-ish.
Yeah.
Just because.
It's bold. I mean, now let me say this. I think VMI is going to be better. This isn't I don't think VMI is going to be good. Listen, man, Coach Rocco was balling when he was the head coach over at Delaware. But I think VMI is a bit more of a rebuild. And it's not that they're not going to be better, but they finished 4-4 in conference play. They got 4 all conference players coming back. But coach, I talked about with the SoCon depth, you got Chattanooga, Western Carolina, Furman, Mercer, Sanford, and ETSU that is just Gardner Webb 2.0 and has a lot of talent. That's just so much competition
Week in,
to
week out.
break into that top 3 to 4 range. I'll say this. I think VMI is a year away. A year away from potentially doing that. I think the top end of the SoCon is too good, coach. And even though I'm skeptical about Furman, I do think they're still going to be in that conversation. And I'm telling you, people are sleeping on Mercer, coach. I think Mercer is going to be really, really good next year. And I just don't think a lot of people are going to see it coming. Now, coach, we've talked about this one before. Shout out to our guy, Dave. I know he's clinging for hope here, coach. He says A&T is going to win 5 games next year.
Man, they had a lot to fix. I know, he brought in a new OC. Their schedule is really tough. I don't know if they can find 5 wins. That would be, man, that's tough.
I got their schedule here, coach. So let's not just say guarantee wins. Like, let just identify the games to you that are potential wins for them, okay? Just potential. Like it's like, let's go they got a 45 to 50% chance to be in that game. And we'll call that a potential win. We got Wake Forest, probably not a potential win. I'll give them Winston-Salem State.
Better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So I'll give them that one. So that's one. They got Delaware at home.
No.
Central on the road.
No.
South Carolina State on the road.
Possibly, just because we don't know. But
that's 2. I'm with you. That's a kind of a toss because I do think we both think South Carolina State is going to be good, but it's still a massive unknown what they're going to be year 1 with Chennis Berry.
Yes.
At Richmond.
Mm-mm.
Hampton. They got them at home for the greatest homecoming on earth. They beat Hampton last year.
That's why I'm kind of hesitant, because I'm like, I know they have not forgot that.
So that's maybe 3, right? That's still probably a 50-50 game.
Yeah.
At Campbell.
Nah.
Okay.
Nah.
William and
He brought
Mary.
half his team with him, so no.
No, he said no for William and Mary.
No.
At Villanova.
No.
At Townsend.
Maybe.
That's a 4. And then Elon at home for Senior Day.
They could.
Oh, that's a big. Okay, so you're at 5 potential right now.
Yeah, they
if
could.
you give them Elon.
They could. That is a toss up to me, because at that point, where will Elon be mentally?
I'll say this: I'm really high on Elon. I think Elon is a potential top 16 seed.
Well, that's what I said. It depends on where they are.
Yeah,
the game comes around.
Yeah, that's fair.
If that makes sense,
Oh, my bad. My bad. And Dave's right. I got them mixed up. They actually lost to Hampton last year, but they beat Norfolk.
They beat Norfolk. Yeah, but they don't play them this year.
Yeah, no, they beat Norfolk. I got them games mixed up. Yeah, they actually lost to Hampton last year, which makes that even worse. I mean, I think I've told Dave I can see probably 3 to 4.
I'm going that.
Yeah, but 5, man, it's just you're gonna have to pull an upset over somebody.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get one of those bounces to go your way.
Yeah. Now, this is an interesting one. Lehigh Football Nation said the winner of the Patriot League will lose 2 conference games next year.
Ooh.
So this is the league. You got Fordham, Holy Cross, Lehigh, and Lafayette are probably the top 4 teams over there. I'm gonna say this is kind of bold, Coach, just because I think Lafayette is. I got them running away with that conference next year.
A lot, right?
Yeah, they got Jamar Curtis coming back.
Yeah.
Their offensive line is stout. They got arguably the best defensive player in the conference, and Saku White coming back at defensive back. I think Lafayette is there. I'll say this: Fordham's interesting just because of the quarterback. CJ is a ball. I mean, coach, 1 interception last year for the whole season for CJ. And so I think Fordham and Lafayette are there. I think Holy Cross takes a step back. I think Lehigh's on the come up, but I got a feeling I'd be very, very surprised if Lafayette lost 2 in-conference games, especially because you get Holy Cross at home. Now, at Fordham, October 5th, at Lehigh, the last week of the season. Now, if they lose both of those road games, we can have a different conversation, but I think Lafayette gets out at undefeated in conference or with 1 loss.
And you bring up the Holy Cross situation. They've got some answers to come up with as well, with the departures that they had. So, I think that conference is going to be really interesting to watch, just because of all the question marks at the programs that we thought would be top programs going forward with late departures.
Now we got our guy, Powerboy 6000 back, man. This is I believe he's an A&T guy. He says North Dakota State plays on the road in the first round of the playoffs, which means, Coach, they would not be a top 16 seed.
That would floor me.
0 chance. I think this is a 10 on the bold take, 1 on the likeliness with the way their schedule sets up. I mean, Coach, and even let's not forget, NDSU last year had multiple losses and still got
first round, right?
They were in the first round, but I think they were the highest team in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. And they lost 3 conference games last year?
Yep.
Yeah, they were 5-3 in conference. How many games would they have to lose to not be a top 16 seed?
And if they lost it, they wouldn't be there anyway. Because that, to me, if they have those losses that would keep them out of the top 16 seeds, they don't get in, because the program And you know how I am; those programs kind of sell themselves. And if they lose that many games, get outside that that realm, I just don't see anybody putting them in.
I'm just looking at their schedule. I just don't like. Let's just say they lose to Colorado. That's not gonna
affect them.
Yeah, it's not gonna affect them. Tennessee State at home is a win for them, in my opinion. At ETSU, I just don't see ETSU being ready to knock off North Dakota State year one with my guy Trey Lamb. They get Townsend at home, which is going to be a bloodbath. Now, at Illinois State on the 28th is an interesting one, but even if you say they lose that game, you get North Dakota at home, who lost everybody this offseason. You get at Southern Illinois, who lost their entire defense this past offseason. You get South Dakota State at home. Then you got at Murray State, who's not good. Northern Iowa, who's not good. Missouri State, who's not good. And then you play at South Dakota the last week of the season, Coach. There might be 3 potential losses. And even with 3 losses, they're getting a top 16 seed.
They got Missouri State?
Yeah.
Wow.
In the Harvest Bowl.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's a bold take. That's insane. Now this one, I know there's a few people who don't think this is a bold take, Coach, based on what I'm hearing. Lamar finishes next season 8-4 and finishes the season ranked for the first time since 2018. Now, Coach, last year they went from 1 win to 6 wins in year 1 under Pete Razamondo. Can they get it done year 2 and make that jump to 8 wins and finish ranked?
They are ahead of schedule, definitely. I just don't know if they're that far ahead of schedule. So I would put this in the middle realm there, because they are trending upward. I don't think it's a just complete like floor you. Wow, they did it. But if they do it, okay, they're trending that way anyway. So that's why I say middle of the road, 5-ish.
I'll say this. They returned 20 starters, Coach, from last year's team, including quarterback, running back, their best defensive player, and their secondary is going to be loaded. I don't think this is that bold. I can see them getting anywhere. Like Timothy said, we talked about on the Southland preview, 6 to 8 wins is in that range. And also to the Southland, outside of Incarnate Word and maybe Nichols, depending on if you're buying into that hype, you can beat anybody on any given Saturday.
That's true.
It just comes down to the out of conference though, because like these Southland teams get, just destroyed in out of conference. They won 3 out of conference games last year, Coach, and I think 2 were because Incarnate Word won an out of conference game.
But so, Lamar's trending up. They're trending up.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely doable, but not surprisingly, if they do it, that you'd be like, wow. But if they don't do it, I mean, that's why I say it's middle of the road.
These last 4 are going to be so good. I put these here because they're all either good topics or close to you being, in your FCS fandom. We're building it. Your Idaho Vandals are here. Our guy Sammy Beers from Reddit said, Idaho covers the spread against Oregon in week 1. Coach, right now, they are a 43.5 point underdog to the Ducks in Autzen Stadium.
It's 44-0 right now. Bo Nix is gone.
They got Dylan Gabriel.
Oh, man. That's a lot of points, man. I gotta take Idaho, man. I gotta take them in this one. I gotta go with that.
Yeah, I don't think they cover. I don't think they cover. I mean, Coach, and also too, here's why I don't think they cover. Oregon is notorious for running up the score on FCS teams for no reason. They're like the bullies in the schoolyard that find the smallest kid on the playground and just beat them to death for no reason.
Just to show everybody else,
Yeah, like if I'm not mistaken, they beat Portland State. Like, what was it? Someone in the chat correct? I think it was like 80-something to nothing last year.
Yeah,
just running up the score for no reason. So
They're still going fast. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't see it. They're gonna be running hurt, like you said, because they're gonna be running hurry up with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter with the what is it? It's not even red shirts. Is it gray shirts? They're gonna
Yeah.
have the gray shirts out there just running hurry up. Yeah, 81-7 last year, coach, against
Yeah.
Portland State.
Yep.
Who then came back the next week and scored like 90 points on like an NAIA team.
Give and get.
Yeah, hey, there you go. They said they had to get their get back on somebody. I don't see them covering him. I think that's a bold take. I'm with everyone that commented under this and even the chat. Just get out healthy.
That's
Just
it.
get out healthy.
That's it.
Get your check and get back on the plane.
That's it.
That's it.
You some free Nike stuff, take it. But that's it.
Man, shout out to our girl Yard Talk, man. Appreciate you for submitting these. Coach, these are the first one. Whew, a conversation is going to be had on HBCU Nightly tomorrow night. She has North Carolina A&T upsetting North Carolina Central in the Aggie Eagle Classic. And her second bold take was Grambling State wins the SWAC West, makes it to the SWAC championship.
First one, oh man, I don't see that one happening. But that one to me is possible. It only because it's a rival, rivalry, and that. And then the G men to the SWAC championship, I got to disagree with that one.
Yeah, obviously, you got to disagree with that one. I'll say this: I think the first one's probably a 7 or 8 for me, just because it's in Durham too. If it was at A&T, maybe I'd feel a little bit differently. Even though I still think Central's a very, very good team, but I don't see A&T going on the road after probably going to be 1-2 after that, because you're probably losing to Delaware and Wake Forest. 1-2 going on the road to Central. Trey Oliver's been in interviews telling people how he feels about A&T. I think his team's going to be ready. I think they're going to be looking to make a statement, man. I will say A&T played Central closer than I think we all thought last year with how A&T was playing at the time, but they're not there yet. So I think that's a bold take, probably 8 or 9. Now, Grambling to the SWAC championship. Coach, even though I say it's PV Alcorn, I still think Grambling's probably the third most talented team in the West. So I'd put that about a 5. Like, would I be floored and just like, how did they do this? Probably not. I think they're a really, really talented team. And going into the preseason, they arguably have the best quarterback in the conference, SWAC Offensive Player of the Year. So I get it, because quarterbacks win championships, and I wouldn't just be dumbfounded. But I still think PV and Alcorn are more complete teams right now than Grambling. So it's still a little bit of a bold take. I'd put that at about a 5 for that one. Now, Coach, this one, I know you're hype. I don't know if this guy actually plays for Tarleton or not, but his name was TSU Player 74, because he said we make a run to the quarterfinals or better. But I made sure to put it in there. Tarleton State makes a run to the quarterfinals or better in their first ever season being eligible for the postseason.
Most definitely.
Oh, I like it. I knew you were going there too, because I know you really like Tarleton this year.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I would be more shocked if they didn't make that type of run. So yeah, most definitely. I'm all in on that one.
I think now me and Jamie Williams, man, shout out to my guy Jamie. We had this out on Rev's opening show for the Southland Sermon the other night. We debated this because they're not as high on Tarleton as I am. I will say this: the offense is going to be so good, man. Coach, you remember? I think you played against them. Kayvon Britton from UAPB, the running back.
Yep.
Went to Tarleton, All-American season. I think he's going to be one of the top running backs. They got the only wide receiver in the entire nation, Coach, at the FCS level that's ever had a 1,000-yard season in Darius Cooper. Victor's got to stop turning the football over, because if he can get down to single-digit turnovers rather than double-digit, I think Tarleton's offense goes from good to elite. But it's still, the defense has to take a step forward to make that quarterfinal run, Coach, because listen, you can say all you want about offense and how great it is to put up points. If you can't stop people in the playoffs, especially running the football, you're going to be in for a long day if you get paired up with one of those Dakota or Montana schools.
Yeah, and we all saw that game, Montana and North Dakota State, and the snow and the weather. I agree with you totally. Totally agree.
Yeah, so I don't think it's that bold. I think they can get there, especially if they win the UAC and get a bye week potentially. Get that 8 seed or something like that. But if they get to host a first round game, I can see them winning that. And it just kind of depends on where you get sent, coach. Because we saw this like Richmond and oh no, who was it? Mercer. I think Mercer was good enough to win a second round game, but not when you send them to Brookings in the second round
Yeah.
against South Dakota State. So it's tough to project quarterfinal or further just because you don't know who they're going to get matched up with. But man, coach, we kind of been moving pretty fast here, man. I think we're good on time. This last one will be very interesting. Our guy Jerome 757 from VA said North Carolina Central or Morgan. Those are his two picks to potentially make the playoffs. Will win an FCS playoff game and make it to the second round of the playoffs.
Again, I'm not as high on NCCU as you are, because until the trigger man situation is shown. But I believe if Morgan can beat someone to 21, I think they're good enough. Their stature is good enough to do this. So I put it in the middle of the road just to stay neutral. But if they can win that race to 21, Morgan can do it. NCCU, I just don't know what they're going to look like after having a guy that was there forever, face of the program. I don't know what this next guy looks like for them. So to me, that would be a bold take for me.
I'm trying to look here because here's where I'm skeptical. I don't know it, and I know my guy Banks is going to kill me for this. I'll probably get a text or a phone call after this one. I don't know if Morgan has the schedule to make the playoffs as an at-large bid. Like when I look at it, okay, so coach, they got Hampton week 1. Is Hampton going to be a quality out of conference win? I don't know. Probably not. Is Townsend going to be a good out of conference win? You better hope they take a step forward in the CAA, because what if those two teams finish below average in the CAA? Not gonna be feathers. You got Ohio, which could they pull off the upset? Maybe. I think they're gonna have to if they're really gonna want to make the playoffs here. But let's just say they lose that game, coach. Then you got Virginia Lynchburg, not a good out of conference game. Then you got Stony Brook, who has been arguably one of the bottom 10 FCS schools for about 4 years now. Then you got Lincoln, PA, not a D1 opponent. Then you got Merrimack, who's an NEC school, not another quality out of conference game. It could, even let's just say you win all those games but Ohio, if you lose a conference game, I think you're out even at 9-2.
I see your point, but I also think that the way that things are going spotlight wise, if they are as impressive as they were last year defensively, and they are winning the race to 21, I think the voters got to give them the opportunity.
Yeah. Now, okay, so hang on. There's 12 games. They have 12 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, this is where the playoff committee is going to be interesting. Morgan could be 10-2, 0 ranked wins. I don't know. Does 10-2 get you in over an 8-4 Valley team that has 2 ranked wins?
10-2 should get you something.
I would think so. But here's the question. If they're 10-2 and Jackson comes in at like 9-3, who now you see this is why I saved this question for last, coach. I wanted to make sure we had time to like really break this down, because now for Central to pull up their schedule real quick, coach, I think they have the schedule to do it. And this is what I'm saying. Shout out to our guy Kevin. The committee set the precedent, coach, with Incarnate Word and FAM. Those were the last 2 9-win teams that have been left out. And then you could, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, it was McNeese about 5 or 6 years ago, I think, had 9 wins and they were left out. If you play non-D1s multiple times and don't have any ranked wins, the committee has set the precedent that it's not just HBCUs, it's Incarnate Word, it's McNeese. You don't get to be in the postseason. And I just think Morgan's going to fall victim to that. And I hate it because look like real quick, Central's out of conference schedule. You got Bama State, Elon, North Carolina A&T, Campbell, and Lynchburg. You got one non-D1, but then you got Campbell's probably going to finish in the top half of the CAA, A&T's A&T. Then you got Elon, who's a favorite in the CAA, and then you got Bama State, who was the preseason favorite in the SWAC.
Yeah.
So I think that schedule might be good enough to get in like they were. And plus, Central got in last year, and you know how it is, Coach. You know, once you're in once, you know, you're more likely to get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
a lot of the times. But I'm just worried for Morgan that and Coach, this is not their fault. I see people in the chat saying that Coach Morgan had an FCS school who backed out due to conference realignment, backed out of an out of conference game like right before the schedule was finalized this year. They just didn't have time to find any other opponent. That's why they're playing one of their D2, non D1 games. So it's not necessarily there. And it's funny enough, same thing, Coach, happened with Incarnate Word. Sanford backed out of an out of conference.
Yeah.
They had to play North American. And real quick, I don't think, listen, so, okay, my bad. I didn't read all this question. I thought it was going to be a quick answer because Jackson and Fam were both top 10 teams, if I'm not mistaken, the past 2 years, Coach, at one point. And Central snuck into the top 10 at one point 2 years ago. And if I'm not mistaken, Coach, was Grambling under Kincaid a top 10 team?
I think, yeah.
At one point?
Yeah, the year they almost beat Arizona.
Yeah.
Rather, that was his first year or his second year.
Yeah. Now, for a year in, a year out, it's winning in consistency. The problem has been is that those teams, like there hasn't been a team in the SWAC yet, and Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, that has shown the level of consistency that some of those year in and year out top 10 teams have shown. And to be fair, there's really only been 4 of them now. Montana State, North Dakota, South Dakota State, or North Dakota State, South Dakota State. Until you show the level of consistency that those programs have had, you could do it. Now, Alcorn was on the way, but the problem is, Coach, I don't think you guys were dominating out of conference as much as some of those schools were.
On the way, and then COVID, not playing that season, and trying to get the footing for that. But that was the buildup. You're right, and that's what those programs have done. South Dakota State has just continued to build it year in, year out. Like you said, North Dakota State, everybody knows year in, year out that they're going to challenge for it. So, yeah, I can agree with you on that with the consistency part of things.
Yeah, because, I mean, to be fair, like you look at the past few, Jackson had, a 2-3 year run, and it was over. Fam finally broke through, and then it all crashed down, like, immediately after. And so I think it's going to take a team winning the conference like 4 or 5 straight years, and then also winning out of conference games and scheduling good out of conference games, not just beating the no offense, the Lincoln PAs and the Virginia Lynchburgs, but Coach, what happens if Alcorn goes on the run y'all did and y'all beat Sanford? Y'all beat, Southeastern Louisiana. Y'all beat McNeese. Y'all beat an Incarnate Word. Y'all beat a Mercer. Man, it looks way different in the voters' eyes.
Yeah, you're playing them and you're winning.
Yep. And Dave said it best. Reputation matters. That's why those wins are important, because when they look at the brands, they remember some of those big out of conference wins for some programs. That's why it's so important, man. I'm rooting for all these. I root for every FCS school against FBS opponents, man. I think that'd be huge. But then also FCS versus FCS games are going to be super interesting. But Coach, man, I know you got to get out of here, man. So anything you want to say, man, as we wrap this thing up?
Man, just y'all keep rocking with us, man. We gonna keep trying to put it out. Next week we have football, don't we?
Whew, man, week 0 next week. McNeese, Tarleton State, Fam, Norfolk State, SEMO, North Alabama, Montana State, New Mexico, man, and then Delaware State, Hawaii. Those are the FCS games next week, man. I'm pumped.
We got action.
Hey, we got an actual preview episode next week, Coach. How pumped are you for that? We actually get to talk some football and make some predictions.
We got action. Yes, sir.
Man, so make sure to tune in. Listen, man, me and Coach, we haven't set a time yet, man. Like I said, we will be live every single day up until Saturday, man, for week 0. We're going to be doing more bowl takes tomorrow throughout the beginning of next week. Me and Coach will be back midweek with our preview episode. And me and Timothy Rosario are going to launch a new show on the audio version, the podcast side, where we break down all the games, do against the spread picks, and also break down the top 25 each week, man. So stay tuned for that. Check out the website, FCS Football Central on si.com/college/FCS. But for Coach Fred, for myself, for the Bluebloods FCS Football Central, man, we are out for right now.